Bogdan Janku has been very good enough to come and talk to us about his OpenSIP project. Bogdan is en route from Brazil to Romania. So you can imagine that it's slightly important for him to catch his flight from Heathrow later on today. So very much appreciate him making that. And that's why he's first up. And then Nigel's presentation will be after that. So Bogdan's going to talk about OpenSIPs, the project he's been working on.
Hello. Thank you, Keith, for the introduction. My name is Bogdan Janku, and more or less, let's say, I'm responsible for the OpenSIPs project, formerly OpenServe. Maybe the name is better known to you. And I will try to give you some insights and, let's say, some hints about how to do VoIP networking. And as this is forum, or let's say event of operators, let's start from the idea of an operator as a beginning. So at least in my understanding, the best asset an operator has shouldn't be the network itself, but should be the, let's say, the ability to provide high-level services on top of this infrastructure. High-level services to end customers, because in most of the cases, these kind of services are generating the biggest revenues. For example, such service can be voice over IP. And let's say that it started with a voice over IP, but what I want to underline is it's not only voice over IP, because initially was the idea, let's do VoIP over the network. And there were different, let's say, approaches. I mean, protocols to do that was like HTTP/3, and now we have SIP. And after we got SIP, people said, okay, but SIP actually can do more than VoIP, so we can have actually not only VoIP, we can have VoIP audio, we have instant messaging, and we can have presence and a lot of other services. So I will rather talk about SIP and what SIP can do in a network. So it's not only VoIP related. And when it comes to SIP, and you go into open source area, one of the most attractive options to implement SIP-based services is OpenSIP's former OpenServe. This is an open source implementation of a SIP proxy. And by SIP proxy, I mean it can do a lot, starting with simple router, soft switch, registration. It can implement applications, simple IP-to-IP gateways, load balancing, and so on. So it's not a simple router only. And the most attractive, let's say, attributes of OpenSIPs is the fact that it's highly scalable. It can handle a lot of traffic, a lot of users in the same time. It's very flexible when it comes to either building applications, so it's very easy to implement new application, new services on top of it, and also when it comes to configuration, because everything is based on some routing languages. Important to remember that it's a SIP server, so it's let's say 90% of the cases it's only about SIP signaling, so it's not handling media. It's not something like, let's say, Asterisk. It's not a PBX. It's not able to handle media, just signaling. Just a big picture about where the place of a SIP server is in a SIP network. So more or less at the core of the network. You have a lot of, you have the end user phones or PBXs or whatever connected, and he's responsible for routing between whatever other elements you have in the network. For example, media servers, other servers, application gateways, and so on. So if you want to start building a SIP-based network, first is to start building around the soft switch. As a short history of this project, the project started in 2005. Originally was the CER project run by Fraunhofer Focus Institute in Germany, and in 2005 OpenCER was started by our company, by Voice System, just to speed up the development. And in the last year, so since 2005, there was tremendous work, and OpenCER became very well known across the world. I can just let's say mention at least that in UK there is TruePhone using it, there is local phone VoIP user website it's using it, and so on. So there are a lot of deployments, let's say major deployments using this implementation. In 2008, so last year, with the problem with the naming, some trademark issues, so we had to rename from OpenCER to OpenSIPS just to continue. Now, what kind of, let's say, services or solutions you can build on top of a SIP server? So, okay, you have SIP. What can you do with it? What kind of services you can offer? And I tried to, theoretically there is an infinite number of solutions, but I tried just to summarize the most important, just to give you an idea. So, the most common one are solutions, residential business VoIP solutions, so offering, again, not only voice, but also video and other services, typically to end customers, residential or business. And for this, the major let's say characteristics of OpenSIPS is the simple fact that it can handle a lot of traffic, so it's easy to actually scale such services. The simple fact that from either from user perspective, either from provider point of view, it's quite flexible, so it's easy to integrate with whatever infrastructure you already have, so you don't have to do dramatic changes in your system. For end user perspective, there are really a lot of functionalities or functionalities or services you can create and offer. So it's not limited like, okay, you can do calls and that's it. You can do a lot of things. And also because when you deal with the end user, you have to take into consideration geographical dispersion. So it's easy also to implement such things. And that was, let's say, the starting point, because a lot of typically ISPs or telcos tried to migrate to VoIP by starting such services with their existing set of customers. What other things you can do for typical, let's say, for operators? You can do trunking, so you don't have end customers, you just route traffic between several locations. And again here, a valuable attribute is the fact that you can handle capacity. When it was, I think 2 years ago, there were some tests, and for example, you can, on a quite decent machine, so I don't mean some production servers or a desk PC, you can have like 10,000 calls per second established. So it's more or less quite a large capacity. Also, the built-in logic allows you to do various routing, so quite complex scenarios to route. So you can, let's say, establish peering with a lot of carriers, route traffic from here to there, and divert on whatever conditions, and so on. So it's very handy to do all this. And also, it's not about doing, but it's also about controlling. So there are a lot of mechanisms that allows you as operator to provision, to control, to monitor OpenSIPs in order to have a stable and robust service. A very interesting, let's say, type of service that you can implement with OpenSIPs is you can build load balancers, or what we call a cluster controller, because let's say VoIP started like small islands, a lot of people deploying very low capacity systems based, let's say, on Asterisk, FreeSwitch, Yate, or typically on small PBXs. And when they try to grow, they have the problem, okay, we don't want to trash everything we want, we just want to balance it. So we just want to put more boxes, but automatically you need a load balancer for that. And again, here OpenShips comes as a front end on top of the cluster just for doing load balancing. With the current version, you can do a lot of nice things like real load balancing with monitoring for the load of the calls to see what is the state to allocate on different calls for different resources. There is here some example. For example, in your network, you can have gateways, you can have servers providing different kind of resources, like you can have servers for transcoding, for voicemail, for conference, and so on. And when you get a call, you can easily determine, let's say, what are the resources required by the call. For example, you can have a call requiring transcoding and then termination to a PSTN. And then the load balancer is able to find the proper combination between a transcoder and the gateway in such a load that to keep to an average level the global load of the platform. So it's quite a complex algorithm for routing. Other kind of solutions, for example, white label solutions. The challenging part about white label solution is the fact that you need a very, very flexible and easy to provision, let's say, engine. Because in this case, you can have everything. It's about grouping functionalities for different customers, grouping users under different, let's say, to offer the service to a reseller and so on. So again, you need a lot of flexibility, especially at the dial pan, especially in managing services. For white label, there is the most important, at least I know, is in Spain, the Voz Telecom company. They offer currently, I think, for like 20 big providers, they actually hosting their services on their platform. So completely transparent, of course, for the end user. Also, there is, you can use it if you try to do fixed mobile convergence, like exactly what Truphone does here in UK. So they are using an OpenServe-based platform, trying to migrate call between IP and GSM. And again, here everything it's about controlling calls, about at least in the beginning was a problem with transcoding and controlling actually the media part in order to be able to do the switching between the networks. What is interesting, at least what I heard from I'm not sure if you know the James Bodie from Truphone. I was getting some feedback from him about how successful was this kind of service. And the initial idea was, okay, you have a phone, for example, you are in the office, you have a phone call, and over the Wi-Fi, you get out of the building, no more Wi-Fi connectivity, and automatically transparent for you, the call should be switched on GSM. And actually, they found out that most of the customers disable such service, even that was, let's say, the goodie they were offering, just because they say most of the customers, they say, hell no, I don't want to pay for GSM. If I have a long, I don't know, I call somewhere in South America and I have a cheap rate on IP, I don't want to switch on GSM. I'd rather have the call ended than switching to GSM. So it was a quite interesting, let's say, divergence between okay, what you want to do at the technology side and what actually the customer wants from practical point of view. As I mentioned in the beginning, SIP it's not only about voice, it's also about instant messaging, it's also about presence, and presence it's gaining more and more traction in our days. And right now with OpenSIPs, you can more or less do whatever you want related to presence. Like you can have not only the simple functionality of displaying presence status between the users, but you have like XCAP functionality for implementing privacy and permissions for presence viewing. You can also inject presence information into the system from whatever other, let's say, services or devices that have nothing to do with SIP itself. You can also publish presence for the old phones or hard phones, which have not such support. There is also XMPP gateway, so you can connect, exchange messages, exchange presence information with anybody from the XMPP network. There is this bridge line appearance or shared line appearance. It's a kind of an inheritance from traditional PBX services, and resource list server. During last year, we had an ongoing project with Nokia trying to standardize. They participated with a client from the new S-Series, and with the server trying to standardize and to see if there are some, let's say, issues in interoperability between client and server, and also to be sure that everything runs smoothly when you try to install. The outcome of the project was really nice documentation, very useful for an operator, of how to set up a presence-based service where to use in a very easy way the Nokia phones. Just an example of some application, let's say, nice feature that we are running was, as I said, the ability to inject presence information from whatever other device or service. And in this case, we had a server publishing information about the load of the server. So it's from the CPU load and memory load and so on from presence. So actually you can monitor via presence, let's say, the performance of some other systems. Or for example, let's take an example, a book selling company, it can publish information about the available books, about what they have on stock and so on, directly using presence, even if there is no phone or device with such functionality. And of course, you can do a lot of other things with OpenSIPs, not only the one I mentioned. Here, just a short summary. You can have enum servers, so you can do enum search, parallel, serial in different trees. You can build the application for example, for NAT traversal. You can do routing. There are a lot of prefix-based, cost-based, or whatever other based routing engines. Of course, you can do billing. There is instant messaging support, so you can exchange. You can even emulate the, let's say, typical, let's say, like in Yahoo, you can you can store messages and so on. There is SMS gatewaying and XMPP gatewaying, as I said. What is important just to remind that these are some example of the most, let's say, used scenarios for SIP-based application. But of course, there is no liberty. As somebody said, it's only our imagination is the limit. And the recipe for doing all this, because okay, you need a robust and flexible application in order to do all what I mentioned before with only one implementation. So there were some things that were all the time taken into consideration when the OpenSIPs was developed, just to ensure that more or less it will fit in all the cases, again, as a SIP server, so no media, no nothing. And just to get a better idea, like how the project itself works, because okay, we understood what you can do with it, but let's see how the project itself works and why it is such a good alternative. OpenSIPs is quite a large international project with a lot of events in the last years, with a large number of developers more or less all over the world. And the biggest advantage of such a project is there is no vendor trap, because it's an open source, so it's a GPL project. Everybody can use it, everybody can contribute. There is no, let's say, unique vendor or something like that. For example, you can get some platform from somebody else, you can get support from somebody else because there are a lot of people around in this area. So it's quite safe from this point of view. Also, there is the development cycle, it's quite fast. So there are like 2 major releases every year, one at every 6 months. And this, all the time there are new features, new things that you can offer or improve your network with. And of course, because it's an open source project, everything is based on collaboration between multiple parties. So let's assume that there is a company taking the project, integrating in their network, and they discover that, okay, they would like to do something more, and they developed by themselves some new application for a new module, let's say a new component for OpenShips. Then they will give back to the community whatever they develop. So automatically that will increase the value of the project itself. And that's an example about only one company, but of course there are tens of companies at the same time. It's what we call the snowball effect. So it's keep rolling and growing and growing and growing by itself. And right now we are just working on 1.5 that will be released in a couple of, maybe in 1 month, one month and a half. And that's a quite good release, because there was a lot of work adding new things, also consolidating what was already there, and trying to improve, let's say, the weakest points in the project. So I guess in 2 months, 1.5 will be available with a lot of new goodies to be experimented by people. So more or less that was the idea. I tried to summarize, because talking about such a project can take, for example, months, so it's not the whole purpose here. Tried just to pinpoint what's, at least in my opinion, the most important things about the project, and let's say from a network operator perspective, especially. So if there are questions or something, if you like to know more about, you can ask right now, or I will still be around for a couple of minutes before trying to catch my plane. Otherwise, thank you, and I hope you got some useful information from this presentation. Thank you.